What does it take to raise an A round in 2022? That's what we're going to look at today. We're looking at a full funding journey for a startup all the way up to the A round so we can see what it actually takes to close an A round right now. And today's startup is a consumer startup, which sometimes can make it a little bit harder to raise money. This video is the funding journey of Smitten. We will walk through their entire funding journey. This is Raw Startup. Great. So what is Smitten and who is behind Smitten?
So I'm David, the CEO and co-founder of Smitten, the most fun dating app in the world. I'm based in Reykjavik, Iceland. Yeah, so for the past decade, I've been building consumer mobile apps. So I'm an engineer. I formed my first team in 2012. We moved to San Francisco to launch our first social network. And kind of ever since, I've been creating products that connect people in one way or another. That's my thing, that's my passion.
Nice, a dating app. Quick disclaimer on Smitten, I am an investor and board member at Smitten, but this is not a sponsored video. This video is here because I think a lot of founders can learn a lot from their journey. With that, let's get started. Now, it didn't really start with Smitten, so what was there just before?
We launched a serious dating app back in the summer of 2019. It was called The One, and we had this beautiful hypothesis that if you would only get one person a day, one match a day, and if you would only see one profile picture and maybe just the first name, so we wouldn't be able to Google that person, we thought people would be more inclined to have a conversation, to get to know one another based on like who they are, etc., instead of just mindlessly be swiping left and right on dating apps. So we launched that product in 2019 and kind of quickly realized that our hypothesis, it was just 100% incorrect.
Well, that didn't work out, so they had to do a full pivot.
After 1 year on the market with The One, a lot of our users, they were just constantly complaining about not only our dating app, but dating apps in general, and how boring they were. And for a lot of users, it kind of felt like work. It felt like, now I need to spend an hour just swiping left and right and see what comes out of it. And that was a pivotal moment for us. And we thought to ourselves, why isn't there a product that is focused on the journey while you're single, not focused on the end goal of finding your long-term partner or your next casual fling or whatever it is, but a product that is actually fun to use, similar to how you use TikTok or Instagram or any other social medium. So with only a few months of runway left in our bank, we decided to pivot, and we took a U-turn from the serious dating app to Smitten, the most fun dating app in the world.
I mean, talk about a pivot. You go from the most serious dating app to the most fun dating app. I guess if you do a pivot, you might as well do a full 360. So they did the pivot and started talking to investors.
From the investor perspective, you're always trying to de-risk every single case. And for new founders or first-time founders, the biggest risk is often, can this person actually build what they say that they want to build? And for us, we were lucky that we know how to launch apps.
This is just key. Ideas really don't matter. What matters is, can you actually build something? It actually matters less if the product is successful. What matters is, can you build, release, and learn? And this is hard, and most people with an idea, they just can't do that. David and his team had shown they could build things, and that is key for an investor.
So we managed to raise a small angel round, which gave us the capital to market this new product, both in Iceland and in Boston, just to see how our users would kind of react to it. Because we just raised 150,000, and that's not a lot of money, and you can burn pretty quickly through it, especially if you're trying to use some of that capital towards growth and marketing. And we burned through that money pretty quickly. So we actually had to raise a pre-seed round. And we did that even before the seed round. So we raised another 250K from current angel investors and few others. And we actually even put ourselves, all of our savings into that round because we wanted to showcase our investors that we also had some skin in the game. And we raised 250,000 because we felt like we knew that we had something, though The One wasn't quite working. We just saw that there was a gap in the market. And if 80% of all dating app users are saying that they are dissatisfied with the current dating apps, we just knew that we needed the time to figure out what kind of a product could we build to serve this market. We made that pivot in, I think, June 2020. We launched the app in September 2020, and we ran out of money in December 2020. So only few months of runway left.
Damn, that is tight. Pivot in mid-2020, release a few months later, and run out of cash by the end of the year. That is tight.
Because we had then launched Smitten 2 months prior, We had some data from October, November, and then in December, we saw that the product was working. We had organic, consecutive week-over-week growth. So we were super confident of like, now we have the metrics in place, we can actually go for a pretty decent seed round. So initially we went to the bank and we got a loan for just few thousands of dollars just to make sure that we could pay the server cost in January and February. But in January, we decided to go for the seed round and we decided to raise $1.5 million, or at least that was the plan.
Only 2 months in and Smitten is showing good numbers. These are small numbers, these are tiny numbers, but Smitten is showing engagement and retention. David knew they had something, so they want to go for a seed round. How did you go about with that?
The way that I look at fundraising is similar to how you do a proper sales process, meaning that you need to have the top of the funnel needs to be quite big or quite wide in that sense, that you need to talk to a lot of different investors. And we decided, let's talk to 200 consumer investors, both in the US and in Europe, that might be interested in our space or in our product offering. And let's talk to them in 10 days. So we just created a list and we said, okay, we're going to hit 200 VCs in 10 days. And we actually did that in 8 days.
Incredible. 200 investors in 8 days.
Obviously, initially, we tried to leverage all of our connections. If we had any friends or any other connections into those VCs, we would then leverage them. If we had no connections at all, we would either send them an email, just a really good scripted cold email, or even just give them a phone call. And if they would not answer the first email, we would send them another one and another one, just to make sure at least that they would, and we would try to provide them with all the information that they would need. Because like for me, it wasn't about getting the meeting and trying to convince somebody what we were building, etc. It was more like, here's what we're building, here's all of our data. Is this something that excites you or not?
Notice what he says. So he doesn't want to convince anybody to invest. He wants to find the right investor, an investor that likes the space, likes the traction, likes the team. He wants to find a match, just like dating.
And obviously from the 270 investors immediately said like, nope, I'm not interested in the dating space. I've never used a dating app. I don't understand how it's like, and they were just off the table. Another 50 probably, they did not answer my emails or cold calls, etc. But then we had like 70, 80 investors that actually answered, and a lot of them were interested in what we were building. So I think I took maybe 50 or 60 investor meeting with investors that were excited about what we were building. And then I could start narrowing down who did I like, who was the best fit for us. When we started narrowing down the investor funnel, at the end of the day, we had few term sheets to pick and choose from, and we could literally pick and choose investors. And we ended up raising not $1.5 million, but almost $3 million.
They doubled the size of the investment. It could even pick from multiple investors.
We signed the term sheet in mid-February.
Term sheet signed in February 2021.
The numbers were literally really small. We had like maybe 2,000 weekly active users in Iceland. But then Iceland is a really small market. Those 2,000 users, they absolutely loved the product and they used it like on a daily basis. A lot of users use our app 7 days of the week, though it's a dating app. I think that was what really caught the investor's eye.
Still at this stage, engagement numbers and numbers that show that users love the product are more important than the actual size of the audience. On top of that, why else did they invest?
The team was pretty good. I mean, though I'm kind of clapping myself on the back, but we are a pretty strong consumer team and we kind of showcased it in the past that we can do this. The second thing is that it's a pretty big market. I mean, there are a lot of single people in the world. There will be a lot of single people in the world after 2 years, after 5 years, after 10 years, after 50 years even.
Next is to put that money to work and show that this product can work in another market than Iceland.
Then we decide on which market should be the next one. And we decided to go for Denmark. So we picked that market, and in hindsight, it might have not been the best market for us because Smitten is the perfect name in the US, the UK, or whatever. But in Denmark, it actually means to be infected. And during COVID times, that was maybe not the best name for a dating startup. But we launched there after a few months. When we finally kind of cracked the code, we hit that tipping point. And the numbers started increasing and increasing week over week. And we just saw like this, again, organic, week-over-week consecutive growth really kick in.
This was the first market outside the home market. It was not easy and it really took a while.
I want to say half a year. It actually took us many, many months just to get it right. Because like for a product like ours, it's a consumer mobile app. It's just like the typical marketplace. And you have these network effects, meaning that it's super important to have the critical mass. Because when you're just the first initial few users on the platform, you don't see that much value or benefit staying on the platform. For example, if you were the first one on YouTube or the first one using TikTok and there were no content for you to consume, you would probably just delete the app.
I mean, being the only user on a dating app is, less fun. You'll be swiping yourself.
So it just took us a while to kind of really get to that critical mass, and then the ball started rolling.
Good. Now the ball is rolling in Denmark. What's next?
And then we felt like, okay, this is the perfect opportunity to go for the A round, because the biggest milestone for us after the seed round was to showcase that, hey, this product works outside of Iceland. We had now showcased that. Now we need more capital to enter more markets.
Well, basically the milestone with the seed round was reached to show that Smitten could work in other markets than Iceland. It now worked in Denmark too. Let's go raise some more money.
Let's look at it as a sales process. But this time we were lucky that during our sales process in the seed round, where we had gathered a list of 200 VCs and we took 60 investor meetings, but only few, we allowed maybe 3-4 VCs to invest in the seed round. That meant that we had maybe 40-50 investors on what we call like the investor wait list. So we sent them a monthly update every single month after the seed round, where we just were pretty open and honest about everything. We showed them all of our numbers, the revenues and like the cost and just what was happening here internally.
They kept in touch with the old investors, and that really paid off. I mean, literally paid off. This time the sales process was starting with a lot of leads at the top of the funnel, and that makes the work a lot easier.
So when we decided to go for the A round, I just sent out one monthly investor update, and I told these investors, like, all right, it's about to happen. We're about to raise our Series A. And then my phone started ringing, and a lot of investors wanted to jump on and try to get on board.
And I just love this, such an incredible process. Investors invest because of FOMO, the fear of missing out. David had created the ultimate FOMO here, kept in touch with the investors, shown they were doing well, shown that they sort of missed out the last time. Now that's the ultimate FOMO, and they were not going to miss out again.
I think in the April update, we sent out, hey, we want to start fundraising for the Series A. If you are interested, please let us know. And I do think in the next update, in the May 2022, we already said, like, hey, we have already signed a term sheet. So that process was super quick. And I do think it was this quick because we had been building this for the past few, not even months, just past few years.
One more month. Boom, term sheet signed.
Again, we set out to raise $8 million, ended up raising a bit more. We raised $10 million from Makers Fund, who led the round, one of the, or maybe the best gaming-focused VC fund in the world, and with participation from all of our seed investors. So Buy Founders, they participated, Pro Founders in London, Possible Ventures, and you, Heini, you as well invested in the Series A round.
Let's have a look at why the investors invested.
I think the proof point there is a bit different from the seed round because it's not that much of a gut-driven decision. But at the A round, you can also look at the metrics. And then you can see, like, how are you performing in this new market compared to your initial market? And how are the revenues progressing?
Really, the difference between the seed round and A round is more validation. The numbers were bigger and it was easier to raise a bigger round.
And how is the team dynamic progressing? Have you managed to hire top talent to your team? And are you the best leader possible to take this in the next years forward? The opportunity is huge. Because if we can pull off what we believe we are about to pull off, this could become a $10+ billion company, $20+ billion company.
Love it. Very ambitious, and the investors love that. Let's talk about what's next for Smitten. Do we do another round and go for world domination?
Now the fun part really begins, because now we have the capital. We just launched in Sweden a couple of weeks ago, and what took us maybe 5 months to do in Denmark took us 4 days in Sweden. And with 90% less capital.
Did you get that? They really have the playbook down now. They can launch markets faster and with less capital.
Now we know what we're doing, and now we know which marketing channels we should really leverage and go after. So now it's now we're in the race of just entering more markets, and we need to do it fast because we don't want any other competitor to launch a similar product to ours in the rest of the world. So I do think that we're going for a big B round probably sooner rather than later. And we want to take the rest of Europe. We want to take the rest of the US and the rest of the world. So that means that it does cost us a lot of capital because it's a capital heavy industry.
Now take a look at this timeline. Yes, this is a very good timeline. They got to an A round really, really fast. So you think, wow, this can really be done in a straight line. In reality, that rarely happens. I think the reason why Smitten did so well is because of what happened before Smitten. David and his co-founder Oscar had already paid their dues. They spent years in Silicon Valley and Iceland to learn to build, and once they got into Smitten, they knew what they were doing. Well, we certainly haven't heard the last of Smitten, and who knows what's going to happen next. We will follow them for sure. Always remember that the hard part about fundraising is not fundraising. It's about building an amazing product that people use and love. That's the hard part. And then you build a fantastic fundraising process on top of that, just like David and his team did. Now that's how you raise an A round in 2022. If you want more content just like this, please consider pressing like and subscribe, and you won't miss any future videos. Thank you very much for watching Raw Startup. Now stop watching, go build something.